Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 58 Years of Prison to Purpose. Today's episode need to be heard. Need to be heard. With our guest, April. How you doing, sister?
All right, how y'all doing?
Everybody.
Well, well,
What's up, April?
What's up? I'm
Before
honored to
before.
be on a show such as this, 58 Years of Purpose.
Oh, hey, we happy to have you, April. We really happy to have you. Before we get into it, could you give us a little background of view of your life before you even entered the public correction?
Let's see. I grew up in the foothills. Maybe you can hear from the accent, somewhat of a mountain gal. And,
I'm a
and
Tennessee guy. I'm a Tennessee guy. I like that.
okay, kind of humble beginnings. Raised by my grandparents, good people, had good values that they instilled in me. My biological parents, they didn't quite have it together. My mother spent a lifetime of substance use disorder and in incarceration. My father as well. And I guess maybe I was kind of an introvert because of that and didn't necessarily latch on to the people or gravitate toward the ones that best benefited me. And as a result, I met a guy who was twice my age when I was 14 years old. And I don't want to say he preyed upon me because I'd like to think that I had it all together at that point. But, at 14, you don't. And we were in a relationship. We became in a relationship, kind of snuck around, and the town was small. My grandparents got wind of it, and things just kind of went awry. Not to necessarily go that deep into it per se, not that I won't, but just for the sake of time, I had to make or made a very rash decision as a teenager did. My grandparents suspected that I was pregnant by this guy and gave me two options. That was to either force me to have an abortion or have the man that I was madly in love with arrested for statutory rape. It was supposed to end like a Lifetime movie where everyone is just so welcoming and loving when a tragedy occurs. We set the house on fire, and unfortunately, they died as a result.
Mm, wow. So
Mm.
so I know this is kind of rough to revisit, but 15 years old, pregnant, in the Department of Correction. Emotionally, how was that for you?
Emotionally, I was just, well, right before I was arrested, let's back up to how it led to the actual arrest. So I was questioned with no adult present, no juvenile, no court counselor. I was questioned for over 17 hours with the state detective, the SBI, and the arson specialist. And so my statement was coerced clearly, and that was supposed to be thrown out. They said under oath that the statement that I gave was a typed narrative of what they stated I said. They had the nerve to say that a 15-year-old, I was free to go at any time. I did not have to stay and be questioned. Now, what person, even an adult, knows that they are free to go with three big guys, a kid and three big guys, just talking and trying to be friendly just to get information about a case? So prior to that, in the moving into the 15-year-old, it was very, very naive. You know, um, Not that I thought it was going to go away, but I did not ever foresee the severity of my actions. I thought that eventually, I said I didn't do it. And then over time, just from absolutely being emotionally and physically spent, I said I did it, thinking that if okay, say I did it, it was not going to go away, but give them what you want. And then I could move on, whatever that looked like at the time. But I was arrested from that point on and incarcerated for 31 and a half years.
April, when you say you did it, what exactly were you saying you did?
that I was a part of setting the house on fire. Now, the part of which I had okay, so they said that he was under my influence. Let's start there.
They
So I
say that he was under you 14, he's
Wow.
right.
28, and he's under your influence.
So I never had a psychological evaluation. All of that was denied. My change of venue, my change of motion to suppress, and all of that was denied. He had his family had retained him an attorney, and they said that he was under my influence. So I was actually charged with the actual doing. And so I coerced him. They flipped it. So I convinced him
Oh,
to assist me setting the house afire that killed my
okay.
grandparents.
Did he happen to be
Okay.
a white guy?
He was very much a white guy, and everyone involved was the
Mm.
SBI, the detective, the arson specialist. All of them were very big, bulky guys, and I'm a little tiny 15-year-old pregnant at the time, and I have these big, gigantic people throwing all these questions at me, saying that they're my friends, that their opinion of me would not change, and that I was free to leave. So they
Well,
say.
so let me say here, you had a public pretender.
And he was white too. Uh,
Wow.
the public pretender. I was at NCCIW at safekeeping for 334 days. So I spent almost a year. And because the roads and stuff were very bad from Wilkes County to Raleigh was over to about 2.5 hours back then. And he only visited me twice in that 2 year time frame. And after I had given birth 106 days later, he brought a plea to me that said if I pled guilty to 2 counts of first degree murder, then the other charges would be dismissed, which could have been additional life sentences like arson and conspiracy, unbeknownst to me. Now, mind you, my co-defendant is fighting his own battle and clearly putting this off on me, saying that I'm the mastermind. I was charged with 2 counts of first degree murder. He was charged with 2 counts of accessory before the fact of first degree murder.
Mm. Wow. The language, how they wrote it up. They wrote
Yes.
it up in a way to support the way they wanted to move in his favor and against you.
Mhm.
I'm stuck right there. I mean, we got to follow through with this interview. I didn't know that. I don't. There's so much about your story that I'm not familiar with, and I think all of us can kind of connect with that dot in one way or another.
Yeah.
So Miss April, let's. I'm on Dudge now, past the part. Everything has took place.
Okay.
You are now incarcerated. This may be before the sentences or after sentences, but anyway, once you knew, okay, I'm going to prison or I'm going to jail or whatever, however that looks, what was your mindset? And I know at 15, 16-year-old, that was rough, but I still, for the purpose of what you have told us, what was your mindset once it is kind of settled in like, wow, this is happening?
That's pretty much it. While this is happening, and the minute that you're sentenced, you're not allowed to be at the county jail. So I was sent to prison at 11 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
I entered prison about 11 o'clock at night. Most kids that age aren't even allowed to be out past the street light. So here I am arriving to a prison at 11 o'clock at night, pregnant and alone.
Mm.
So the mindset was, I don't even really know how to describe it. It was in awe. It was shock. It was abandonment. It was abuse. It was manipulation. It was all of that rolled into one. So if Webster could find a word to describe all of that, put that into one word and give it to me.
What happened to the guy?
He received life plus 10 plus 20. And about 8 years in, he had complications of Hep C, which was a condition that nobody knew that he had. And apparently it was one that had lied dormant. There wasn't a lot of treatment back then. He was working at a print press or something, and they said that the chemicals exacerbated his condition. And about 8 years in, when my son was 8, he died.
Mm. Mm.
Wow.
So he
This
did get a life sentence as well.
He got life plus 10 plus 20. Yes.
good night.
And your
For the
sentence was
conspiracy to now his was 2 counts to commit murder before accessory before the fact, mind you. So that means he accompanied me, not that he did it, but he accompanied me. So he has accessory and he has conspiracy to commit murder and to commit arson. He
Wow.
has addition to, I had the actual charges.
Mm.
I could imagine at 15 years old when you heard those sentences, you probably was numb, didn't even understand, didn't even make sense or understand what you was hearing. Like what, huh?
Right. Well, I was scholastic enough to understand that consecutive meant one behind the other. When
Okay.
the judge, I felt like the judge, when we watched 9/11, I remember seeing that video of the plane flying into the, and I thought that it was on replay. Now, of course, it's just fast forward, but when I was watching it, I thought that it was a video that we were watching it. It was replayed over and over. I didn't realize it was happening simultaneously, like it was going back to back. And that's how my sentences were read. When he said you have a life sentence, and to after the exploration of this life sentence, like I felt like I was just that twin tower, like I was just getting rammed back and over and over again with life sentences.
Mm, mm, mm.
So during your time, what kind of support did you get, or what kind of lack of support that you didn't get, as you did your time?
From whom? From the outsiders or from
Yes,
prison? Or
yes, from outsiders.
I went to prison with $50 in my pocket.
Mm.
And that was the money that my court appointed attorney and the secretary gave me the cash out of their pockets. And that's what I went to prison with,
Mm.
$50. And as we know, that's what you leave with now. So that's basically what I had to start forever with. I didn't have a lot of support because I said, my parents led a life however they wanted to lead their life. So they were in and out and elsewhere. And I really didn't have anyone. I might would get $20 a month here and there for probably the first 17 years. So I had to make a way for myself. I broke the rules, as I'm sure maybe the rest of you have, but I mean, it was survival, and I say that jokingly because all the other guys that I know that were justice involved, their infraction records were not as bad as mine. And that is just so, so embarrassing. But I had to do what I had to do to make a living and to make a way. I mean, the jobs in there might pay 40, 70 cents, and that's just nothing. That's no kind of life. One of the jobs that I have, I mean, aside from, I know you'll go into that, but just a job to get some little side money here and there. I clean up someplace on the weekends, and I laugh and I tell people the same job that I make 16.50 an hour, I made 70 cents faithfully in there, or 40 cents, depending. I mean, cleaning toilets, that's 40 cents all day long.
Yep.
280. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So during your incarceration, Miss April, when did it kick in that, or was it something that happened, or was a lawyer that, because obviously you're out. When did it kick in that, you know what, I may need to start doing some things for if I get out, or when I get out, or however that came about? When did it kick in for you at going in at 15? What age, and what type of things did you start doing after you had that thought process come that you say, okay, I need to prepare because it's a chance I'm getting out. I hope I'm getting out, or you see where I'm going.
Well, I went in. I was pregnant, and so I had my son. We don't have birth in prison. I had him in the hospital and had to hand him over. So for the
Okay.
most part, I always had a relationship with him, even though I was a teenager and did what teenagers do into my 20s. I always had the mindset that my mind always said that I wanted to be free to be a mother to him, but I didn't necessarily know how to navigate that. So about my late 20s, the infractions were multiple for just whatever to begin with. And I would say the middle 20s maybe my late 20s, I said, you know what, I'm outgrowing this. I'm outgrowing this, or I'm outsmarting this, one or the other. But that's when maybe I had a change. And then I had tried a commutation like years and years before, but it just wasn't time. It wasn't time for me, because I do believe that the universe aligns things as it's supposed to. So it wasn't time for me as a person, and it wasn't time for the state to recognize that I wasn't the same person either.
April,
Okay.
how many different religions did you study?
Just Native American spirituality. I'm half Native, and I've always kind of gravitated toward that. Even though I can appreciate and accept the others, I feel like that aligns best with me. I feel like I'm connected to everything. Everything kind of has a purpose. I don't like everything, and we don't like everybody, but we all are here together. We're all here together
That's
trying to
right.
work. The turtle's
That's
trying to
right.
cross the road, and we're trying to get home safely. We're all
How
trying to get to the same place.
how many of your write-ups were of a violent nature?
Ooh, let's see. I didn't have any. I didn't have any assaults on guards, but um, I was not one to be maybe punked, I guess, for lack of better words. You
Yeah.
couldn't come at me with some mess. Like I guess I'm kind of a fireball. I guess people would describe me as being petite. I'm 5'1" now at almost 50, so I'm definitely not going to get any taller. So
You're gonna
so
get shorter.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, you get older, you get shorter.
Right. So I mean, that's no taller than I am. And a lot of times people in prison, in women's prison, and I'm sure the men's prison as well, some try to take you under their wing to guide you, and some just try you.
Right,
Just like,
right.
oh, this little young gal or whatever, but that's not me. That was never me.
Right.
So how was your birth experience in prison? When you're 15 years old, you go to prison, you're pregnant. How was the birth part of it in prison of your child?
Well, like I said, I gave birth at Wake Med, as a matter of fact, but I gave birth with they sent luckily two nicer officers, but they're still officers with guns holstered, that will shoot me as opposed to try to help my labor at any given time. So they were there to do their job. But I was fortunate enough to not have someone who was just, like really, really aggressive. But with that being said, I was still fully shackled in labor in transport to the hospital.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I can't
But
imagine.
trying to escape and run is the last thing on your mind, I assure you.
Pregnant, shackled down, but I'm in labor, but I'm ready to take off.
Yes, fully
Wow.
shackled, 5 point. Y'all know
Exactly.
what it is. Yep. Hmm.
April, how will you describe what was the label or tag or the description of you, the teenager that burned the house down? Like how would they describe you then? How did they address you when they talked
Oh,
about
I
your
was
case?
about my case well, we watch the news and stuff. I mean, I was that little manipulator. I'm the one that got him in trouble. I should never get out because of what I did. Nothing that led up to the why. The why is more important than the what, because people do a lot of whats. We get behind the wheel because we think that we can make it home. You know, but the why is we thought we would make it home, but we didn't realize that was just a poor choice and decision. I was before they got to know me, I would say they thought maybe I was a manipulator, mean, aggressive, but I was that person. I mean, I just didn't take a lot of mess. I didn't want to be bothered. I was an introvert. I stayed in school. I tried to learn everything. The few educational opportunities that were offered, I stayed in school. I went to class, and over time, I became like a mentor. But I didn't realize that I was doing peer support while I was in there. So as I got older, the ones that came behind me, you become that OG. That person that's been there. And it used to aggravate me until I realized what was going on. They would say, go ask. Now, the ones that were my friends, my circle, um, they would kind of vet the people that were new. They would say, okay, now you can go ask April, but if you come in with some mess, now she gonna let you have it, and I'm not responsible. But you're serious, then she'll help you. And it was always go ask April, she knows. And I was like, I thought it was kind of I thought it was kind of just mean to say go ask April, but what it was that they looked up to me and I knew how to fix what was going on. But I was thinking, okay, she knows because she's been here, she's not getting out. It was not like they were picking on me, but I really looked at it later on down the line. I was like, they're asking me because you've already navigated through this and you know how to get past it.
And they trusted you.
Yeah, even the staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you give us a little bit of some of the things that you're doing now, out in the community?
Well, I got out through a process called the Juvenile Sentencing Review Board, which was about 300 people. The Governor Cooper, put a committee in place about a year before I got out, and they vetted about 300 of us, and I was the first female to be released March 24th, 2022.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So since then, I have completed my associate's degree. I'm pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice, which I will finish at the end of the year, and probably move on to a master's in social work. But I have an advocacy business because I really think that it's important to go back and reach back and assist the ones that I left behind because someone eventually had to help me. So I have an advocacy business, Fenced in Fighting for Freedom Advocacy, provide resources, just kind of a bridge to help those that are in once they get out, family members. Whenever you do time, the people on the outside do time with you. So a lot of times they just need support in how to best advocate and support the person that they have on the inside.
Miss April, what would you, if you sit down, if you was to sit down in front of somebody right now, and they was at the age where your situation took place, what would be maybe the first thing, and then some of the things you would tell them if they was going through the same situation, whether it female or male, and probably more with the female, especially because you was pregnant. How would you sit down and talk to them at first? And if you dealt with them all the way through, some of the things you would tell them as they're processing through what's taking place to them?
I would definitely tell them to really think why this person is in your life. What is the purpose of this person entering your life? Like you were at this age, you were at this point. What is the benefit and what is the cost of this person being in your life? And if your benefit does not weigh out the cost, then tell somebody. Tell an adult, tell a mentor, tell someone that you trust, and maybe they can help navigate you out of this situation before it gets bad.
Now, to follow up on it a little bit, I guess where I was getting at is once they have maybe committed a crime, maybe not up to what you was convicted for, but any crime, if there was at your age and at that point in their life, how would you sit? Also, if you went to the jail and seen them, or if they would let you go, whatever, what were the things you would kind of talk to them about to try to let them know that, hey, there's an end game to this, and it doesn't have to be an end game with you in prison for the rest of your life? How would you kind of talk to them?
I tell them to kind of use the time to better yourself. The one thing that I learned that I used the time for was to get to know myself. And once you get to know yourself, you know what you will and won't accept in life. You know what you want, and you can make changes as much as you can in there. If there's a class, if there's something you don't know, take it. If there's something that you're unsure about, read about it or research it the best you can. Luckily, they have a little more technology now. They have tablets and and other means of things they can use to better themselves. And I would tell them to just get to know themselves. And it's funny you say that. I have gone back into the jails and the prisons. I went back for a group from the prison that I was just released from, a group called Reaching Out from Within for their graduation. And they were just, I mean, luckily I was able to just be amongst them as if I were. And it was bittersweet. Of course, I talked to a lot of them still. They're my friends, they're my family. And it was like, dang, but it was better for both of us. It's very therapeutic to see people that have made it on the other side. And
Beautiful.
Mother's Day, I will be going into NCCIW, spoiler alert, for Match. There's a program called Match there, and Match stands for Mothers and Their Children. And it's set aside separate from visitation where you can visit with your child once a month, so it won't be as scary. And I was one of the original Match moms, and I'm going to go back and speak to their group for Mother's Day.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So what message would you like to leave to your listeners?
Do not think that you are the sum of your worst mistake. I want you to always focus on you, know who you are, and the world will see you as you are and not whoever you used to be. There are going to be some naysayers and some haters, as they say, but, use them to motivate you to be the best possible version of yourself.
April, I love to ask this question. If you knew then what you know now, what do you think you would have done differently?
I would have walked away. I would have walked away. I would have not. It started with a single yellow rose. The guy came up to my to come up and greeted me with a single yellow rose, and that was just so endearing. And that is like that rose was the kiss of death. That was the beginning and the end and the beginning again to my life. That was
Right.
the beginning of something that embarked. Of course, my son wouldn't be here. It was the end of my childhood, my 20s, my 30s, most of my 40s, but it also prompted a new beginning when I got out. So I'm starting life anew.
Yeah. Was he just somebody in the neighborhood, some my family friend? Like maybe I missed that part.
No, so I was at a summer job. I had a job, and one of my coworkers was a person that I had befriended, and he was a family member of hers that was her ride. And so he saw me before I saw him, and he approached me. That's how we
Okay.
met.
Yeah. Wow. He twice your age?
Yeah, exactly twice. I met him when I was
So
14. Yeah, he was 29, 15 years older than me.
so he was a pedophile.
I hate to label him that, but you know,
I mean, I hate listen, I hate a lot of this. I hate that you went through what you went through. I
yeah,
hate to label a lot of people what they are, and people say, "Oh, you judging." But if the light is red and I call it red, is that judging or calling it what it is?
yeah, if it were not me in the same situation, I would use the same language. I
Mm.
only refrain from using that language in my situation it because something beautiful blossomed from that yellow rose, which was my son. And
Excellent.
for
Understood.
Are
and
you
only because of him do I refrain. But if it was not me and something else, I would most definitely say it. I would use the same language, if not worse. I would be the same way.
so
Wow.
how's the relationship with you and your son now?
Oh, we're very close. We're still very close. He's turned into my dad now. He's 33, so he tells me what to do. What's cool and what's not. I think I make it a point to try to embarrass him as much as I can. So
That's what parents do. So, April, any organizations or anything you want to put out there that so people can either reach out to you or maybe get you organization to come to them or they come to you or anything you want to put out to what you're doing right now. I know you mentioned Match, but anything else that you want to put out?
So my organization is Fenced In Fighting for Freedom Advocacy and all that. You can see that on TikTok. My Instagram is April Barber 44, and if you want to be my friend, April Scales on Facebook. I'm a published author, And my website on there is www.aprilbarberscales.com. It has my books, it has the podcast, and other social media platforms. My fifth book is out. It's available on Lulu, and it's called Love Tales. And it is a compilation of short stories. And what's different about Love Tales is that everything that I've written prior to that was nonfiction. So this is actually fiction, but everything prior to that is the rough and raw of April.
Yeah,
And the
April
movie is coming out when?
Huh?
I said, and the movie coming out when?
The documentary, they are working on it.
Okay.
We're getting the script together now.
Okay, excellent, excellent,
Funny you
excellent.
say that. See, you thought you weren't. You thought you just making something up, huh?
It's a joke and it's reality. That's beautiful.
And Malik, have you been on April podcast yet?
No, I haven't been on April's podcast. But what day do you do your podcast, Miss April?
Well, whenever my partner and I do it, well, I'll reach out to you after this and see about it, because you would be a wonderful addition. Because Mr. Scott So and Will have been on there, so
I'd love to do it. I have a little bit different background because I was once a correction officer as well as been in prison, so I have a kind of unique story to tell. But I would love to do it. Love to do it.
Well, with that
met
said,
some.
April, we really, really appreciate you. We thank you for your honesty. You know what I'm saying? So we really appreciate you. And it's a hell of a story too, April.
You're welcome. Thank
I
you.
got one more question.
What's up?
April, what's the mic drop? Give me the mic drop moment. what you really would like to say to the world right now.
You can make it if you try, one day, one step, one moment at a time.
Thank you, April.
That's what's up.
I appreciate you very much.
Salute.
Love y'all.
Yeah, have a great
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye.